With some new members joining the Continuity Patrol, they now have a new plan of action as well. Of course, the two new recruits, Kakarot 2 and Cooler, they need to be caught up to speed, learning about all the things the Continuity Patrol does, and mainly Cell Prime. Just like before, Cell Prime isn't their only target, but he's starting to move up the priority list very quickly, especially because he's basically a constant threat, so they learn all about him and his origin. Welcome to Episode 7 of Cell Prime. Kakarot 2 has never experienced a cell like this. He's seen Cell Prime, but not this. But Cooler actually did have a cell in his continuity, one similar to this. He's surprised to see how far the cell could actually go, and he learns about the different realities Cell Prime went to. Thankfully, the realities he went to were already pretty much too far gone, or they made it out okay, like the one where Goku had mutated potential. But there was one reality that suffered a lot of damage. The reality where Frieza was reincarnated. This piques Cooler's interest. He wants to learn more about it. Of course, he never knew Azir. As a little side note, that What If Tournament and Power video, that never happened to any of these people. It basically exists in its own separate reality, so Cooler's never actually heard of Azir. But obviously he wants to know more. Frieza was reincarnated and became good? That's really a shock to him. To think his brother of all people became good, he never thought he'd see it. And it opens his eyes to how many different realities are out there. Of course, he knew there were a bunch of weird ones out there too, especially because he's already seen some by being part of the Continuity Patrol. All the people here are from pretty unique realities. But Cooler never realized how far it could truly go. Kakarot 2 at least had some knowledge of it. He's seen realities where he was on Earth, he's heard of a reality where Raditz and Granola were surviving on Earth, and he even briefly saw the Lord Slug that Piccolo fought. He knows that there's a bunch of different realities out there. But Cooler has a strange feeling within him. He never met Azir. He doesn't know who he is at all. And the person to tell him about all this is Kakarot 1, someone who feels obligated to avenge Azir, despite never having had a connection with him before. And that kinda is passed on to Cooler here too. And it's not just Azir, of course. Everybody in Universe 11 in that continuity. Other people that Cooler knows from his continuity as well. But it kinda shakes Cooler to his core, knowing that somewhere out there, he had a brother, or at least someone that could have been a true brother to him. He never was too sentimental about that stuff, nor did he ever really think of that before. But it gets him to see how truly big of a threat Cell Prime is. He's not simply going around killing people, he's basically destroying everything. These infinite continuities where anything could happen. With Cell Prime around, he's basically ensuring that none of this ever happened. The group's not going to lose to Cell Prime again. They're going to wait a little bit. Now, why can't they just have Piccolo handle it again? Cell Prime isn't the only threat that they're facing, and with Piccolo being the strongest person and having so much power, he's sent out on pretty much everything else. Even outside of Piccolo, the others all have other threats to stop too. That's why only some of the patrolmen show up to fight Cell Prime whenever they can. But now with him becoming a larger priority, things are changing. Piccolo also believes that the group can handle Cell Prime on their own. Normally whenever they encounter Cell Prime, Piccolo's usually busy with something else anyways. Although he has seen Cell Prime's power once, and he's judging off that, but he knows that Cell Prime has grown stronger. Although, he thinks the group can get even stronger than that. Instead of chasing him the next time they see him, they just gotta wait a bit. They need to find the perfect opportunity to fight him. Months go by for the Continuity Patrol. Of course, they continue going on other missions. And they keep tabs on Cell Prime, but he's not really doing anything, so they don't really intervene either. They need to wait for the perfect moment. So they focus on their training. Kakarot 1, Ruda, and Raditz all try and further their strength, being trained by Kakarot 2. Of course, they're not going to unlock the same thing that he got, but they're able to actually surpass Super Saiyan Blue, getting Blue Evolution, with Granola even getting Super Cerulean. Especially with Granola having hits Pure Progress, he grows really quickly here. So even though he just has one Bell of course continues growing too. That continuity that he contained, he considered leaving it behind, but he does have another idea with it. You know, he can control reality so well right now. He has so much power. If only he could hop through continuities as easily as hopping through time. You know, they have a time ring that just lets them hop through different timelines. But what if he made something like that for continuities instead? It would take a while, especially because he's basically working on it from scratch. He'd be the first person to do this. But he does have the perfect roadmap right here. This continuity could act as a power source of sorts, or at least a subject to study more. So while he does spend some of this time training, more of it is spent trying to develop a better way to travel. He could harness the power of this continuity not for himself, but rather as a method of travel for himself. Plus, on top of that, by making a ring like this, what if he's able to fully stabilize himself? He never thought of this before and he's surprised he didn't, because with time rings, they could stabilize you from traveling between timelines. So he could probably do something similar with continuities. The patrol never even noticed this continuity disappearing because Zamasu never moved out of it, and despite his evil motives, he still did have some sort of values as a god that prevented him from being too reckless in destroying other continuities. It was already too far gone, and again, it's not really their job to just erase continuities. If this is the natural course of the continuity, they're not going to get involved in it. And since it was essentially lifeless, once Cell got rid of it, they didn't even notice. So Cell spends this time crafting a new method of transportation. He only really wants to fight Piccolo again, but it's still too soon for that, and he would like to find other people to fight, but maybe he should just lay low for a while. Which is exactly why the patrol is not intervening. Cell is honing his craft. Not just as a warrior, but as a traveler too. After a few months, Cell eventually arrives in another continuity, trying to test out this travel, and it works perfectly. Alright, now that he's here, he might as well try and see where he actually is. It looks like the glitching has stopped too, so maybe that's a good sign. And as he tries to look into where he is, he realizes that the time that he's in is also not where he expected it. He's centuries ahead of the other continuities he's been in. Although, it looks like he's in Universe 7, and this continuity seems really interesting. From what he sees in its history, some things did go differently. There's a very different god of destruction here, and it's Vegeta. He was raised by Beerus in this continuity, growing immensely powerful, with Goku as a Supreme Kai too, life-linking the two as well. So naturally, he wants to fight the strongest person here, and that would be Vegeta, the god of destruction of this universe and the strongest in this continuity. He arrives on a place that looks like Beerus' planet, but now it's Vegeta's planet. These two must really be gods because Saiyans usually don't live that long. Their lives have gone far differently here, so despite being centuries old, they look like they're in their prime. And he sees this once he actually comes face to face with Vegeta. Obviously Vegeta instantly recognizes Cell too, with Goku sensing this and teleporting over to the planet. And it's not just because they know Cell from this continuity, but they know of Cell Prime as well. And as much as Vegeta would like to fight Cell, he does something else somewhat different. Now, he and Goku start fighting Cell, basically just to buy some time, because Vegeta also did get in contact with the Continuity Patrol, which kind of amazes Cronoa. First of all, Cell Prime showing up after all this time, and second of all, a God of Destruction actually contacted them and doing their job. That's kind of rare, they're usually not that responsible. Also, the fact that Cell Prime rarely comes in contact with Gods of Destruction, usually fighting someone else in the universe who ends up being the strongest. The only other instance of that is when he fought that one Goku, although that Goku wasn't experienced enough to actually know of Cronoa. So, maybe things would have gone differently there if he did that. But either way, she instantly sent out the patrol. This is their chance, especially because they're going to have two strong people fighting alongside them. But Vegeta and Goku in that universe are incredibly powerful, centuries older than normal, and far more experienced. As Cell fights them, he sees some very familiar powers. You know, Vegeta's using Ultra Ego, and Goku appears to be Ultra Instinct, although he's made his own. Essentially, this is a constant version of true Ultra Instinct. And the form is so unique to Goku that he doesn't even look different here. Normally he'd have white hair or something, but he doesn't. Ultra Instinct is his own, so he just looks normal. But he most certainly is using Ultra Instinct. Even Cell finds it hard to hit him, despite having Ultra Instinct for himself and having great speed. These two are the real deal. This should be a pretty fun battle after so long without fighting anybody. The way the two of them control their Ultra forms, it's divine. Figuratively and literally. Cell feels like he could learn a lot from them. But after not too long fighting, a portal opens up near Cell. This should be really fun. Part of him hopes he gets to see Piccolo again, but at the same time, he thinks it still might be a little bit too soon. He's strong, but he doesn't know if he's on that level. And thankfully for Cell, it's not Piccolo, only a few other people. And it's just 3 patrolmen, Kakamasu, Cooler, and Kakarot too, the 3 strongest patrolmen there. Now, they actually had some others on standby, but sending in that many people could have been a little bit too messy. Of course, all the patrolmen are powerful, but if Cell even gets one of them under his control, and takes them hostage or something, or even absorbs their power, that could be a really big issue. This way they limit risk, but still send in a lot of strength. The Goku and Vegeta in this universe are pretty surprised to see these 3. So, those are some of the patrolmen. That's kind of strange, especially because one of them looks kind of like Frieza of all people. And Goku's intrigued to see not only another version of himself, but apparently a fused version of himself who also was a Supreme Kai in that timeline. Well, they don't have time to think about that. The fight immediately resumes. With how experienced Vegeta and Goku are, they can adapt to the fighting style of the patrol pretty much instantly. And Cell taunts him throughout all this. He's surprised Vegeta would call in for help. What, did he think that he couldn't defeat Cell on his own? And Vegeta says he almost didn't do this. He really didn't want to. He wanted to fight Cell himself and have someone to test out his power against. But he knew of Cell Prime before. The Continuity Patrol has been warning other realities. Well, at least the gods that will listen to them. This Vegeta really is different from normal Vegetas, especially because he's being incredibly responsible and incredibly careful. Besides, despite being curious about fighting Cell on his own, he already has a great rival to spar against. The Supreme Kai fighting alongside him right now. But something does pique Cell's interest. There are 2 new patrolmen that he doesn't recognize. Well, he recognized them. One's Cooler, who he hasn't really encountered in many continuities, but he could tell it's Cooler. He at least has some knowledge of him. This is the first time he'll fight a Cooler like this, though. And also, one appears to be Goku, but apparently it's not Goku. His name's Kakarot, or Kakarot 2. And he assumes that this Kakarot's probably going to be like the other Kakarot he knows. You know, Kakarot 1, the one in the armor. But he comes to see that that's not the case at all. He's fighting 5 incredibly powerful opponents. The God of Destruction Vegeta, using Ultra Ego. The Supreme Kai Goku, using a complete, perfect, true form of Ultra Instinct. The fused Supreme Kai Time Kakamasu, using Ultra Instinct as well. Cooler, with the power of the Big Getty Star, using his own unique form called Platinum. And a version of Kakarot that has his own power, Supreme God Kakarot. But Cell says this is nothing for him. He's been growing a lot stronger in the meantime. Sure, it seems like they've grown, and they have new members too. But he taunts them all, first turning to Kakamasu, saying that he hopes this fusion isn't as useless as it was before. And then he looks at Cooler, the new patrolman. He would love to send him to hell with his ear. Too bad they're in a different continuity right now, though. He's basically trying to rile them up, trying to get them to lose focus. For Vegeta and Goku in this timeline, it's not really working. And he doesn't really have anything to use against Kakarot too. But for Kakamasu and Cooler, he's definitely hitting a nerve with them, so he continues to taunt them, wanting to draw out everybody's full power. Kakamasu is already at full strength, but for Cooler, he starts to feel that anger within him. He's thinking about it once more. All the timelines that Cell has recklessly destroyed, all the lives he's taken. He might have not completely destroyed the continuities, but to some extent they're irreversibly damaged. Even though technically he's not related to Azir at all, and they never even knew each other, Cooler still feels some sort of weird connection to him. And hearing about his death is basically the catalyst for him. He's already decided what his goal is. He wants to explore more continuities, see all the great things out there. But not just that, he wants to protect them, and he wants to restore all the damage that Cell's done. Of course, the Continuity Patrol as a whole wants to try and do that, at least to mitigate the damage, but Cooler knows that they're not going to completely restore it. That's going to be up to him. He thinks they're not doing enough, and he's going to be the one to do that. And maybe one day, he will get to meet this Azir guy. He'll get to meet all the other people in the other realities that Cell has destroyed. But before that, he'll have to defeat Cell, and he'll show Cell what true perfection looks like. With the big Getty Star still part of him, this entire time during the fight, it's been analyzing Cell. Cooler knows all of his moves, all of his abilities, all of his weaknesses and how to counter them. Despite fighting for only a few minutes, Cooler has grown greatly in power and technique, never having experienced that kind of growth from an enemy like this. This is definitely a first, and hopefully, the last. Kakamasu commands them, now is the time to strike. He starts by paralyzing Cell with magic, with Kai Goku joining in as well. With their combined magical prowess, they are actually able to hold him still. Of course, this is something that Cell has encountered before, but not like this. The two of them are so much stronger than he expected. And right when he's about to escape, he's turning Cell's own body against him and making it restrain, as it tears Cell's body apart, while the two stand back to back. Vegeta instantly knows what Kakarot's about to do, but he's surprised that he even knows that. He doesn't question it though. They each stick a hand out, charging a dual Hakai, seemingly erasing Cell Prime entirely. But something's wrong. After the Hakai, there's no explosion. There's supposed to be some sort of blast. Quickly, Kakamasu materializes a crystal orb in front of him, basically using a playback of what just happened. At the very last moment, the last instant, Cell was being erased, but he teleported out of this existence. They had him. They should have erased him. How did he even do that? That's not possible. He would have had to make a portal or something. He can't do that instantly. And then Kakamasu sees it. On his hand, he has a weird ring, but not a time ring, it's something else. Kakamasu's anger begins bubbling up again. He thinks this is all useless. He can't believe it. Cell Prime escaped again. After all their work this time. He thanks Vegeta and Goku for the tip and for their help. And they're just as dumbfounded. The patrol leaves, going back to the time nest. This has been angering Kakamasu for a while. That Zamasu side of him, that little bit of evil in his heart, it's bubbling up even more. And he doesn't even realize it. Something dark is brewing within him. And it makes him think. The way they're doing it isn't working. He's following their playbook, but it's not going well. And it makes Kakamasu wonder, is there any way that he could do this on his own? Is there any way he could do this and make it work 100%? Cell arrives in another continuity. Elated. He's done it. It worked. He would have definitely died there if he didn't have this, but it worked. And as Cell is celebrating, Kakamasu is contemplating. Maybe it's best if he doesn't work with the patrol, and does things his own way. This is where we leave off for now. What do you guys think about this part, and what's going to happen next? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to see what you guys think. As usual, be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really does help out the channel. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.